Hello everybody, welcome back. It is June 17th, 2025, and you are listening to episode 211 of Midnight Film Society. I'm your host, Damian Sherman. Joining me today, as always, is...
Derick McDuff.
On today's show, the symmetrical stylist himself, Wes Anderson, is back with his newest decorative diorama, The Phoenician Scheme, and we'll give our thoughts on it later. But before that, we'll get into some movie and TV news, check in with our summer movie wager, do some what we've been watching, and finish up with our Letterboxd assignments. Right into the show, Midnight Film Society, gmail.com, Midnight Film Pod on Threads, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Subscribe on Pocket Cast, YouTube Podcast, Spotify, rate and review it on Apple Podcast. Tell a friend, family member, or stranger. What's up, man? How we doing?
We are doing well. As I was telling you before we got on, or before we started hitting record here, I had just gotten back from a little trip that I took, which was really great, but very exhausting. So I sound like I don't have a ton of energy. That is why.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. It's all good. You, as the kids say, every once in a while, it's good to touch grass. I don't know. We also talking about how they built the entire city and multiple states are sitting on pretty much just desert. So I don't know. Was there a lot of grass to touch out there?
There was some grass. It was in the middle of the desert, sort of, but it was, they had very deserty vibes. I went on a hike out in it's kind of the desert meeting the mountains, sort of. It's this place called Ojai, California, which is this nice little hippie town, out there kind of by Santa Barbara. So it's not too far inland. You get a nice little, some of that ocean breeze out there. So it's not too terrible, but kind of nice deserty vibes out there.
Nice deserty vibes, sort of Palm Springs. Have you ever been to Palm Springs or no?
It's kind of I've been to Palm Springs. It's kind of similar to that, that kind of vibe. So less natural springs and more pride flags, but still pretty rad.
Nice. Yeah, I definitely got to make my way out there. I've actually never been to Nevada or Las Vegas at all, so definitely need to make my way out there and check out some of the the places out there, Joshua Tree and some national parks out there.
Yeah. Vegas was a big one. I've been to Vegas, I don't even know how many times, because when you live in Southern California, it's like, oh, this is a quick trip. It's like a 4-hour drive. It's like the exact right distance where it's like, should I fly or should I drive? I could really do either one, but it's, I've been there, like living on the West Coast. That's kind of a go-to for bachelor parties. So I've been there for a bachelor party twice and for two different ones, I should say. And just trips over the years. Went there for New Year's of, about, 10 years ago now, maybe even longer than that. So yeah. But next time you come around, Damian.
Yeah, exactly. You can traverse the desert together. Speaking of the desert, I don't know. Did you not find shit? Speaking of deserts, Spaceball 2 is a go apparently from Mr. Mel Brooks. Are you a fan of the original Spaceballs?
Yeah, it's good. I haven't watched it since I was probably like a teenager or in my early 20s, so I'm not sure how it holds up. But I liked the first one. I like Mel Brooks a lot, So
yeah, he put out a video this week at the spry age of 99. 99 years old, 99 years, and a bitch ain't one. He's nice. This is gonna pull together some family members. Obviously Bill Pullman was in the first one, and his son. What is his son's name? Bill, not something Pullman, right?
Yeah.
Bill Pullman's son.
Bill Pullman and his daughter, or son, who I want to say Bob because that was the name of the character.
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
Played in every movie that he's been in that's been really but famous. But yeah, I don't.
Lewis Pullman, yes.
Lewis Pullman, thank you.
Yes, yeah, Lewis Pullman probably going to star in that. The thing I wanted out of this is just for them to go in a different direction. They probably will, rather than the Ghostbusters reboot with bring back the old cast, and Tron is probably going to do the same thing, and just a lot of the Lego sequels we've gotten in the past few years. I feel like there's definitely a format and a template that a lot of these Lego sequels just kind of do over and over again. So I'm really hoping they do something different with this one, right?
Well, I don't agree with that because this is a farce, right? So this should be a farce of Lego sequels, right? So so they should play up. The first one obviously played up on all the tropes of Star Wars and other sci-fi movies at the time that were really popular, and I would like to see them play on the tropes of Legacy sequels in the sequel, because that would make sense. That being said, I think this movie has probably come out 10 years too late, because or
Hmm.
it's going to be 12 by the time it comes out. I think it's going to come out in 2027, they said.
Yeah.
And like, because the thing is, like, okay, cool. The Force Awakens came out in 2015. Then we had two more movies. Like, that trilogy was done by 2019. We still have Star Wars stuff, but like I'm like, if you're gonna spoof Star Wars, why wait until 12 years after Star Wars comes back? Like, it's weird timing to me. I don't really
Yeah.
understand why it's coming, like, it's now, like, when Star Wars is not what it was,
Hmm.
and like I said, it still exists, but like, it's weird to me. It does feel like, well, I guess we'll do this now, but it's definitely not striking while the iron's hot.
Yeah, definitely not. Was it History of the World Part Two that came out recently? It was another sequel to a Mel Brooks
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, his World Part 2, which I never did get around to watching.
Yeah.
And it feels like it kind of ruins the joke of there being a History of the World Part 1 but not a Part 2. I always
Right.
thought that was really funny.
Yeah. What else? Yeah. So the send up, the parody thing is genre that seems to be coming back now with this and Naked Gun coming out with Liam Neeson.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see how that one works and see if parody movies are coming back overall.
Yeah. Yeah, and hopefully we can get like good smart parody movies. Unlike, I think what killed the parody movies were all the like all the blank movies, like Scary
Yeah.
Movie and like those, cuz they were all so bad and had nothing to say about anything other than like, "Hey, remember the Hunger Games?" And you're like, "Yes." And they're like, "This is a thing that happened in the Hunger Games, but it's got poop in it now." And you're like, "Okay." And that was it. That was like the state of parody movies for like 10 years, and those also age horribly because you're like, "Hey, remember Rampage starring Dwayne Johnson? We parodied that." And you're like, "Cool, this is a year later and this is already irrelevant. Like, nobody remembers that movie."
Yeah. Would you call what was it? The Robert Downey Jr. Blackface movie? What was it called?
Oh, Tropic Thunder. Which is
Yeah.
a
Was that?
wild way to describe that movie, but okay.
But okay, yeah. Would you
I mean,
call
you're
that
not
a
wrong.
Would you call that a parody movie, or is it like it's a movie about parodying the
It's not a parody,
construction?
but it's farcical, right?
Yeah.
It is very much a take on the Vietnam War movies, that dominated the 70s and 80s. But it's not a straight up parody. It's more of I would say, a farce,
Yeah.
where they're riffing on these tropes, but they're not like. I mean, and there are moments like when like Ben Stiller throws his hands up in the air and they do the like the
Platoon.
the like, yeah, exactly, they do the platoon moment, but it's not like, oh, this has the plot of Platoon or something, would just, so I think that falls on the other side of it.
Yeah, the farce of what Spaceball was and
Yeah,
what
yeah.
what's the western he did? Blazing Saddles.
Blazing Saddles, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be interesting to get another movie like that, sort of sending up the could do. He doesn't have to be strictly Star Wars. It could be bringing in superhero. It could be a secret, parody send up of the general blockbuster superhero stuff like that.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. I think it'll still be very sci-fi farcical. I don't know, other than Star Wars, what is really big in terms of sci-fi these days. Like,
Yeah,
it's not as dominant as it was when the first Spaceballs came out, which is maybe why it took so long for this sequel to even come out. Because, like, is it still relevant? So I
yeah.
don't know.
Could do. They could do. They talked about the product placement in the first one, and it's very trendy now. With like the stuff like the studio to have like super inside baseball jokes and references. So I could definitely
Mhm.
see Mel Brooks being a studio guy to make those jokes in this movie.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to play on, just like on movie trends in general, which I think this will hit up on a lot, and I'm sure, because, like we said, there are characters that are analogous to, Princess Leia, and then they kind of combine Luke and Han into one character. But like, obviously Chewbacca, there's like characters that are Darth Vader, obviously, with Darth Helmet, which, by the way, Rick Moranis being in his first movie
Hmm.
in like, since 1997. coming back for this, so that's cool. But there are characters that are analogs for other characters. So I wonder if they'll do the same thing. If they'll have like a character that's like a Ray in this, a character that's like a Finn or like a what's his name, like Kylo Ren.
Yeah, yeah.
Will they be like somehow? I'm like calling it
Somehow.
now. Are they gonna be like somehow the Spaceballs returned? Like, is that gonna be a thing?
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Speaking of the health of the industry, weekend box office. We haven't really done these very often, but I just want to check in with this. What's going on over the weekend? Because I saw one movie that came out that's on this list, but biggest one of the weekend was the live action How to Train Your Dragon soars to 83.7 million at the box office, marking the best domestic opening weekend for the franchise. Which it's a little what'd you call that? A little I forget the word. Not unfaithful. Insincere or something, but just meaning because the last ones came out 10 years ago and ticket prices have doubled. So it's like inflation. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, maybe, but you're also not considering the inflation. The fantasy adventure movie beat analyst expectations of 70 million and held off the Lilo and the other live action remake Lilo and Stitch, maintained his number one spot.
From the same director.
Yep, same director. So he's eating well no matter who wins.
Stitch looks like Toothless.
Yeah, exactly. Whoever wins, whoever loses, he wins. Let's see. So what else we had out this weekend was The Materialist. I still want to see. Sean and Amanda
tonight after we record.
Nice. Yeah, Sean and Amanda did a whole pod about it, and then on the most recent one yesterday, they did a live YouTube Q&A from the chat, and they mentioned how people in their friend group went and saw Materialist and like, what is this? Because it's not receiving nearly as much praise as Past Lives. So it's much more of a standard bog sort of love triangle, which is not terrible. Speaking of movies.
Well, I wasn't expecting it to be Past Lives 2 or anything. So
no, yeah. And very quickly, I do want to mention they talked about love triangles on. I think they did. On Big Pick, they talked about love triangles and some of the best ones in movies. And Sean brought up Fight Club being a love triangle. And I was like, that is an interesting and interesting way to...
Okay.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay.
It's stretching the bounds of love triangle,
spoilers for Fight Club.
Yeah.
But it's the same person. Like, it's not a love triangle because one of them doesn't exist and it's the same guy doing it, and she doesn't realize that there are two personalities. So I don't know. That's a little too cute by 10%.
Too cheeky. Little too cheeky. But yes, Materialist open to 12 million, edging out Mission Impossible for the third spot and behind Lilo and Stitch, which grossed 15 domestically for a total of 366 million. So okay, they did not mention any of them I saw. I thought it did, but yeah. So that's his weekend. Not doing too bad. Anything to mention about that before we move on to summer movie wager?
No, other than like movies are back. People are going to see movies this summer. A lot of big things coming out. A lot of things people are excited for.
Moving and shaking.
So yeah, moving and shaking. I would have seen Materialist, but I ended up seeing a different movie that I'm going to be talking about later on, which I'll mention, which is an old movie, but yeah.
So let's move on to summer movie wager. Again, it's very early in the year. We're only in middle of June, but I do want to check in for a little bit here. Speaking Materialist, it is it's sitting at 12 right now. It's not going to last there for very long, but it's notable that it is there. Clown in a Cornfield being number 13 with 7 million, and movie I will talk about later, Phoenician Scheme, is 11. But again, sitting at the top spot right now, which seems might actually stay there with 368 million.
I don't think so. I don't think so, but
yeah. And again, as usual, I'm looking at the list and I'm like, what do you think is going to beat it out? Superman, maybe?
I think Superman could. I have the ones that are in my number 1 and 2 spot have not come out yet either, which are Jurassic World and Fantastic Four First Steps, which I think will, like I said, I thought they were going to beat it when I made the list, and I still think they're going to beat it. They're not out yet. If you look at, like, Stitch had a really good opening, but a pretty, quick drop-off. So we'll see how it holds up when these other big movies start coming out, because I think it's where it's at, it's probably not going to make too much more money, and I don't think that's enough to. If you look at historically what other number ones for past summers have made, they've
Hmm.
made more than that. So I don't think it's topped out enough.
All right. Yeah.
But we'll see.
Fair enough. And then just for posterity, I have 24 points right now, mostly due in part to Lilo and Stitch giving me 7, and Thunderbolts also giving me 7. I had Mission Impossible. I'm getting 5 from Mission Impossible: Final Reckoning, and 3 from How to Train Your Dragon. So that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, and
June
those
17th.
are going to all be pushed down
Yes.
soon enough, and you're going to be losing points very quickly. sorry to burst your bubble.
Yes.
Unless Lilo and Stitch really pulls off a good hold. But Thunderbolts, Mission Impossible are definitely going to be falling. How to Train Your Dragon could fall or could raise. Like it's because it's still got a lot. It's recent, so it's still got obviously a lot more time to make money. But then there's a lot of stuff that still have to come out. So How to Train Your Dragon probably will end up at about the same spot. Everything I think is gonna fall. But I'm at 18 because a lot of the stuff that I had doing very well has not yet been released. So we'll see how that goes when they actually do come out. If I end up being, proven right with those ones I had mentioned before, with obviously, I have Superman at 4, then How to Train Your Dragon at 3. So once again, we'll see how that ends up, and then Jurassic World and Fantastic Four, those top 2 spots. So if those end up doing well, you can get a lot of points. Then I've of course got a couple things in the back half of my list too that haven't come out yet either.
Yes, yeah, indeed. But I'm just looking at the number. I'm like, that big, for being out, 2 weeks now? Lilo and Stitch, 3 weeks?
Yeah. I mean, that is it did make a lot of money, but it's been out, I think 3 weeks. But it had a pretty steep fall from the top there. Did not hold number 1. I think it held it for it was in the first week it was number 1, and then immediately I think it got beat by its cousin in How to Train Your Dragon.
Gotcha. All right. So with that, good luck to you, sir. Moving on
Likewise.
to what? Yeah. Well, moving on to what we've been watching. I saw a metric fuckton. Going back to the metric fucktons of yore. I saw a lot. I saw quite a bit of movies of this week. So I will. I'll do 2 or 3, and then I'll go back. Yeah,
I did not see almost anything this week. I don't think I did see. I saw one movie in theaters, and it was not a new one. So
Gotcha. Yeah. So like I said at the top, Mr. Wes Anderson, the symmetrical stylist himself, came out with his newest film, The Phoenician Scheme, starring Benicio del Toro, Mia Threppleton, who is Kate Winslet's daughter, Michael Cera, Riz Ahmed, Tom Hanks, Bryan Cranston, Matthew Elmark, Richard Ayoade, Jeffrey Wright, Scarlett Johansson, Benedict Cumberbatch, Rupert Friend, Hope Davis, F. Murray Abraham, Charlotte Gainsborough, Willem Dafoe, and Bill Murray. Big old cast in this one, as per usual. I like this movie quite a bit. I would place it somewhere in the middle of Mr. Anderson and his filmography. Very, very much liked his last outing, Asteroid City. This is even bigger than that. I think every movie so far, I'll couch that. Every live action movie has been bigger in scale and scope than the last one, costing more and more than the last one. But I don't think he's lost the central conceit of a lot of his movies. Is a father who's trying to reconnect with his daughter and family. Going all the way back to Bottle Rocket and obviously Royal Tenenbaums was very much that. Darjeeling Limited was about 3 brothers dealing with the death of their father and not really knowing their father that well. I know Wes has a daughter. I think she might have had a cameo in this, so it's very much up his alley. I think Benicio del Toro does his best to carry this film, but he's always at his best in things like Sicario, where he's kind of playing second fiddle to somebody else. And also the other thing people are talking about this movie is sort of the idea that it's about a megalomaniac, international businessman, a man of industry who just wants everything and takes everything, and is very, very much that. It could be, Trump allegory, but wrote this well before. Again, we've talked about this several times, but movies have come out after the election when people thought it would hopefully go a different way. But there there is one major component of this that I noticed that I think you could just say, okay, that is a coincidence. But it has to do with the character of Benicio del Toro, whose name is Zaza Corda, a ruthless yet charismatic business tycoon. So the conceit of the movie is, the premise of the movie is he is trying to fund some new projects, and he has to come up with basically 10% from like 5 different people. So the entire movie is him going to different countries and sitting down with these different business partners and saying, hey, can you give me 10% of what I'm looking for, or 20%. And so he'll like I guess he wrote up a contract before meeting these people. And when he goes to meet them, they pull out the contract and go, hey, you've been fiddling with this. It's very funny that they say like 3 or 4 times, you've been fiddling with it. And he's like, I fiddled a little bit. Yes. And, he just says, okay, I'll unfiddle it. We'll just go back to the original contract. And it's very, reminiscent and relative to the taco moniker that Trump has been given about, Trump always chickens out. So I think that one aspect of this movie and his personality definitely is reminiscent of current day and current, in the current moment of him just not making any deals, really. The art of the deal, what deal? No deals have been happening. So yeah, we have Michael Cera, who was like, the guy that people looked at like, why has Michael Cera never been in a Wes Anderson movie before? Apparently he hasn't, and he's very, very good in this. I won't spoil it, but he basically plays 2 parts. There's sort of a turn about halfway in where he plays somebody else and is very, very funny and very good and shows his range as an actor. So it's sort of that thing where, yeah, he can do he's been doing a Wes Anderson type performance for many different movies, but also he can do other things. And it's very cool to see him do that. I love the production design. I love the goofiness and the line delivery and the writing and all of this stuff. And I was telling somebody the other day, like his early movies, especially Roland Tenenbaum, was incredibly instrumental in forming my like musical education, and hearing that music in his movies and be like, let me seek that stuff out. I will say probably for whatever reason he's gotten away from that, and this especially notable in this movie where it's mostly just a score by Alexander Desplat does the score here. So there's no sort of pre-done music that he uses like Cat Stevens or anything like that back in the other movies, or the Kinks or stuff like that he used in other films. So that was something I'm missing from his movies, actually.
I wonder if that's because his movies have gone less towards like being set in the real world and more into like, this is just kind of like a weird like fantasy world that we're living in, and it's bringing in songs that are like from our actual real world that we know would feel more out of place as he's gone more and more into this very cultivated aesthetic.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Like, yeah, Asteroid City and the Ronald Dahl adaptations were taking place different place. The French Dispatch was, obviously based somehow in some version of France. But yeah, definitely get your point there. But yeah, definitely would recommend if you're a Wes Anderson fan and if you've never seen one, it's actually not a terrible place to start off. I mean, you will be overwhelmed by the scope and the scale of it and the style of it and all that stuff. But yeah, would recommend this even over, Grand Budapest is probably his most lauded film in terms of awards, and I think it made some of the most money he's the budget. I think it's been most financially successful for him, but that was also a movie which was like a story within a story within a story, so it was a little complicated in that way. Royal Tenenbaums is probably where I would start, just in terms of the most relatable story and not too big and broad and all that stuff. So yeah, would recommend Phoenician Scheme. It's playing now in somewhat limited release.
Yeah, I do really need to see this one, and I know it's getting wider and wider, but I'm gonna try and see this. There's just a lot of stuff to see, and I was on vacation, but yeah I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah. Real quick, I saw Ballerina from the world of John Wick. Sorry, from the world of John Wick's Ballerina. Not great, not terrible. My review was on Letterboxd, like, usually characters like this in an action movie, do a bunch of globetrotting, Bond like globetrotting. Fast and Furious does a lot of globetrotting with the characters. I've never seen a movie, Derick, where the character's accent does globetrotting. Could not tell where this accent was going.
You've never seen what's his name, the guy from Avatar in a movie, because his accent globetrots every movie he's ever been in.
The Avatar, the James Cameron
what's
Avatar?
His name? The main guy, James. It's Sam Worthington. Sam Worthington. Yeah, you're like, he's from Australia, I think. But gotcha. You listen to him, and like his accent is always like, I remember when he was in that Terminator movie, which I quite like a lot, actually. I think is underrated, but his accent is like all over the place in that one.
Yeah, I will give Ana de Armas some credit and cut her some slack, because I don't think the movie knows where she's supposed to be from or what accent she's supposed to be having. So it's understandable. I will say there's one interesting action set piece in this involving grenades. It's something where you really, really, really have to suspend your disbelief with the ways she uses grenades and the way she a very inventive way of using grenades, but unless every surface she was blocking the grenades was made of titanium, I don't think that's how that would have worked. I think she would have at least lost her hearing, if not a couple inches off her scalp a couple of times.
Some crazy shit happened to John Wick in these movies too, so
True, yes. But yeah, it was a time.
He fell out about 18,000 stories in that one movie and just kind of lived away.
He did. It is very funny seeing, because is it a spoiler to say who's in this film, you think, at this point? Or
I mean, you say, John Wick is in it? He's in the trailers. John Wick
is in this film, yes. And it's just, like you said, it's ridiculous, the John Wick things that happen to John Wick in those movies, and it's fucking hilarious to see him come back.
But I love it.
He pulls the thing that I would very, very much interested to know if they saw him do the thing where he pulls up his jacket and put it up in front of his face, and they're like, wait, we can just make the jacket be bulletproof. And it's fucking hilarious just to see her start shooting at him, and then him immediately doing the Batman cowl thing and just pulling up his jacket in front of his face. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot his suit jacket.
His indestructible jacket, yeah.
His indestructible suit jacket. But anyways, there was that. Let's go to you. You read a book this week, Sunrise on the Reaping. Is this the follow-up to A Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, the prequel to the Hunger Games franchise?
Yeah, this is sort of a follow-up, I guess. It's another prequel, but It's not a direct follow-up to that one. This is about the 50th Hunger Games, which were, of course, the games that Haymitch, who was Katniss and Peeta's mentor, was in. So it's set 25 years before the trilogy and about 40 years after Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes, which is the 10th Hunger Games.
All right. What did you think of it?
So I love these books. I love the movies. This is a franchise that's very near and dear to my heart. This is a book that, like the last one, only exists because Suzanne Collins needs to keep writing these books because they want to keep making the movies, and if she doesn't write the books, they're just going to make them anyway about, whatever the future, there's going to be the Hunger Games are back. Somehow President Snow returned, some shit like that. So she's instead writing these prequels. And I really think that she made a case for Ballads of Songbirds and Snakes to exist. I think that's a very, very good novel. It's really interesting. It really provides a lot of insight into the world of the Hunger Games and also the character of President Snow. I've said before, I think that movie that movie and that book are what I would have liked the Star Wars prequels to have been. However, and Sunrise on the Reaping is, I will say, a very, very well-written book. It perfectly places you in the mindset of Haymitch. You understand why he is the way that he is because of that. However, unlike with President Snow, you kind of already knew why he was the way that he was. It's just kind of like telling you things that you already knew, and it's a lot of hey, this person is here too. You know how this person is the way in the trilogy? That's why. And so it's just kind of it feels like a very well written but unnecessary book. Like I didn't need any of this. Like it doesn't really justify its own existence, despite the fact that I really thought it was very enjoyable and well written and truly tragic in a lot of ways. Um, the one thing I do think that it did well is it bridges that gap between the earlier prequel and the original trilogy
Mhm.
in some interesting ways.
Yeah.
With it being set kind of like not halfway through, but like in between them, because there's references to things that will come about later, and then there's a lot more in this that I thought than I was expecting, with characters from that first one and things that happen, because later on it gets alluded to, obviously, that there have, before Pete and Katniss, there were only two victors in the history of District 12. We know Haymitch was one of them. We didn't know who the original one was in the original trilogy. We
Hmm.
find out who that victor was in the Battle of Songbirds and Snakes, and that is like, that character Lucy Gray, and her ultimate kind of ambiguous fate is very much alluded to throughout this book, which I was not really expecting. So it's definitely like for the fans, I would say. I don't know that this book would work if you weren't a fan, and it's a little bit anticlimactic because it's like, yeah, we want, the capital's terrible, snow is terrible, we want to bring them down. That's gonna happen in this later trilogy. Here we are for now. So yeah, I would recommend it softly, if you are a fan of the Hunger Games. It's, I would say, easily the worst in the series for me,
Hmm.
but that's still a high bar.
Gotcha. Do you have any interest in, and has Susan Collins had spoken about, where did the Hunger Games start? Like, all these books and movies take place, decades after the first one. Do you have interest in finding out what started it?
I mean, that's extensively covered, in even the original trilogy. It's
Oh,
it's they talk about, I mean, and the movies too. So that's all there in them. The dark, they start as a punishment for the districts after their failed rebellion,
wow.
and that is with especially with uh Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes being the 10th one. So much of that is about the early Hunger Games and how they were, you know, how the Hunger Games, as quote unquote we know them,
Hmm.
became what they were in that Hunger Games. So yeah, if you want to know that, read slash watch Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes.
Gotcha.
But it's there, present in every one of these novels and movies.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, I haven't done too much reading this year. I did just read Small Things Like These, which I also saw the movie adaptation of. It is a book written by Claire Keegan. It's a very short book. I think it's 128 pages, so it's basically a novella, but it's a very good one. It tells a very good, very, what'd you call it? A very well described world. I love the books that describe, like, this takes place in Ireland, so it's very like, it's New England over the pond. It's like I've always wanted to visit Ireland because I feel like New England is sort of the American version, a little bit of it, of an Irish town, Irish cities.
A lot of people calling people wankers in it, right?
Exactly. Yeah, winkers. Yeah, and some other terms as well. Yeah. So watch the movie, Small Things Like These, which quietly, came out end of 2024. Didn't really get any awards contention, or didn't make a lot of money because it was a very small film. But I've enjoyed it very much. I think Cillian Murphy obviously won his Oscar for Oppenheimer, so he gets huge praise for his acting there, and it just does something smaller here. But I think you definitely see he has the way with his cheekbones and his eyes and just the 1,000-yard stare that he does so very well. He does it really well here as well. It's about, if people don't know, it's about a man who's worked in a coal yard where he he's a deliveryman for the coal yard. I think he might even own it. So it's about him delivering coal, and he delivers coal one day to a local convent, and he sees a girl outside, dressed in just a nightgown. He's like, "What are you doing out here?" And the nuns pull her back in very quickly and says, "Hush, hush, girl." And so it's very clear that there's a lot of abuse going on in there. I think it was based on the Magdalene laundries, which ran from 1922 to 1998, which is insane. So just decades and decades and decades of decades of abuse going on there. So yeah, it's one of those sort of about one guy trying to not be quiet about things going on in his community, which sort of very relevant today.
Kind of like Spotlight a little bit.
Exactly. Very Spotlight-esque in that way. And then I also watched another movie also about a guy who was doing that sort of same thing of quiet resistance from 2019, Terrence Malick's A Hidden Life. Yeah, finally caught up with this.
I really wanted to check this out. I'm curious to hear what you think of it.
Yeah, it's very good. I think it's Terrence Malick's one of his most acclaimed films in a very long time. I know previous to that, like between Tree of Life and this one, he had I think he had two or three that came out in quick succession, like Song to Song, Knight of Cups in 2015. So I know he was experimenting with a bunch of different storytelling ways of doing that. To the Wonder came out quietly in 2012 as well. Yes, experimental romantic drama film. So sort of just trying a bunch of different stuff, and then finally made this epic in 2019. It's 174 minutes, but it really doesn't feel it. He does the Terrence Malick thing so well because it's set in the Austrian Alps, so that just lends very, very well to Terrence Malick's style of incredible widescreen vistas and mountains and, that sort of gladiator thing of people just running in fields and, really incredibly beautiful cinematography. This stars, let me see, August Deal, Valerie Poncher, and one of my favorite actors of the last 10 years, Franz Rogowski. Let me pull up because he has a very notable face. Did you see Passages from a couple years ago?
Yeah. That guy. Yeah.
That guy. Yeah.
I love Passages.
Yeah, so the Franz Rogowski plays one of the guys August Deal meets when he's sent to jail for basically what is conscious objecting of the wars. The German army comes to Austria to conscript him into the German army, and he's like, "Nah, I'm gonna have to say no. Sorry, I'm not gonna be doing that because I've heard what you guys are doing, and I'm not into it." So. Mm-hmm. But he's in a village of, very patriotic people, very true believers, in the cause of that, doing Hitler salutes and all that. And him and his wife are, ostracized from the community. They aren't pushed out physically, but they are just, when he is finally taken away, she's forced to do all of the labor that he was there to help her do. So it's very much about silent resistance and pushing back against fascism. And even though if your local community, doesn't want you to do that stuff. So it's really, really beautiful film in visually and thematically.
Yeah, it's been one that has been on my list since it came out. I just have never gotten around to watching it, but it sounds really good, and it's definitely, like you said, you mentioned a lot of these kind of smaller films that Malick had done that are more just kind of like in the modern day, just like cobbled together from like just a bunch of different takes, and we'll figure out the story as we go. Yeah. Which I like those movies more than most, but I was really excited to see him go back to these big historical epics that he's more well known for, while still having those qualities of like, we're going to just shoot a bunch of takes and have voiceover and stuff like that. But this feels like more of the real Malick stuff that people love. Yeah,
exactly. I recommend checking it out. On a decently large screen. I watched this on my 55-inch 4K TV, which looked decent. I don't, for some reason, there's a collection of directors whose works have really not been transferred well. I know this one's hasn't been. I know a lot of Malick stuff has not been released in 4K. James Cameron stuff's not released in 4K. I think Catherine Bigelow's, a lot of her stuff's not released in 4K. Kevin Smith, obviously. It's just a weird hodgepodge of directors who, for some reason, their stuff is some of the only films.
People need to see that grainy ass black and white Clerks movie in 4K that Kevin Smith shot with a potato. That's what people need to see in 4K.
Hey, folks, did you know I shot this in like $30,000 over the course of like a month?
Yeah, man, I went into crazy credit card debt. Let me tell you all about it, man. It was a giant mechanical spider. Okay.
He was on Big Pick last week talking about the Dogma 30th anniversary
Yeah.
release and saying to not Harvey Weinstein, but what's the company they were part of, the
Miramax.
Miramax, talking to calling up Miramax, be like, hey man, 15-year anniversary, what are we doing? 20-year anniversary,
Oh,
what are
yeah,
we
I heard about
doing?
this. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Sean asked him about that. Sean asked like one question, and like 40 minutes later, Kevin Smith was like, all right, so that was me. What else you got? Yeah. So yeah, all right. So let's see what else you got here. Last of Us season 2. Did you binge this whole thing? Because I honestly, man, I'm trying to value my time as much as possible, trying to see, as much as I can, that I think I'm going to enjoy. It's just one of those things where if I hear something that's not great, or I'm just not totally into it, or I think I'm going to enjoy something else, I'm just going to try to drop things if it's not really feeling it.
Right. You don't. If somebody tells you this is good or this is bad, you preform your opinion. Then you go.
Yes,
That's fine. I
I
get it.
do.
I try to form my own opinions, which is a different way to go about it.
Just
But
different. It's not
crazy,
better,
right?
not worse. It's just different.
Not exactly. It's just different.
Just different.
No, I'm just giving you a hard
So,
time.
yeah.
But like, yeah, I heard the same things.
Yeah.
And which is not surprising because the Last of Us Part 2 video game that this is based on was also equally divisive, however you want to pronounce
Yeah.
that word.
Yeah.
After both of them had massively, almost universally critically accepted first parts. And I really loved it. I didn't play the games. I played a little bit of the first one, but I didn't really get in too far into it, and so I'm mostly familiar with it from the show. And I'm about halfway through. I did start to kind of binge, but I haven't finished it yet. It's not out all the way yet, I don't think. But I and it's one of the things is like I see why people would not like this because they make some very bold decisions, which I very much appreciate. And I've actually been enjoying it so far. I think that it's been really good so far. Uh, I am very curious to see where they take it because it might end up I might end up hating it by the end of it, but so far so good. I've really liked they're taking these chances. They're doing something radically different from the first season. They're the way they're telling the story is very different. The characters are very interesting. And obviously it's not the same people that are yelling at that you are listening to about the quality, but a lot of people, I've heard some people be like, well, Bella Ramsey doesn't even look hot, blah 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 blah, like there's a lot of that,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate. But yeah, I've really loved this movie. I love the queer representation that is taking place. So there's this really great shot where Bella Ramsey and this character who she has a crush on are riding into Portland, and there's like a big pride heart like painted up from the before times with a rainbow on it, and it says pride on, and they didn't ever like really live in the world before, so they're like, what's with all the rainbow stuff with the pride? I don't know, I guess they were just a really happy town. So I thought that was a really great moment. But yeah, I've been enjoying this. Curious to see where it goes.
Yeah. So yeah, full spoilers for this. We'll just talk. I mean, I got up to the third episode, I want to say. So, the
Okay.
episode where Joel dies, that was really, I think, that was some of the best things I've not great, not great that happened, but incredible acted scene, shot scene, written scene. Were you as impacted by that as pretty much everyone else was?
Yeah, I thought that was what I was talking about. That I thought was really bold. They
Yeah.
took a huge risk. They were just like killing off this character from season one, this beloved character, but a very dark, conflicted character. And I love the parallels that So obviously, Joel did something at the end of the first season that sparked this thing to happen to him, where like somebody like the daughter of the doctor that you could argue unnecessarily killed at the end of that season comes to take revenge on him, and now you have um you know uh I'm forgetting her name, Bella Ramsey's character.
Ellie?
She's going to Ellie, thank you. Ellie is now, she's going to take revenge for killing of her father figure. So, the
Yeah.
parallels that it's setting up, I think, are very fascinating. I want to see where they go with that. But yeah, that was just, anytime a show kills off a main character, it's a big risk. I think sometimes it pays off. Obviously, they did that with the end of the first season of Game of Thrones, and then they had a lot of good seasons after that. Then a couple really bad seasons to end the show. Vikings is another one that does that. I don't think it pays off nearly as well on that show. So it's always a risk, but I think it's so bold, you have to respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to ask you something I really haven't seen anyone sort of bring up, and maybe it's brought up in the show because I haven't seen it. I haven't played the game either. If Ellie was given the choice, because that's the whole thing, is like he took away her agency. Joel took away her choice to whatever she wanted to do. Just remove that choice from her. If she was given the choice, what do you think she would have chosen to do? If let's hypothetically say that cure was possible, they could distribute it, whatever, right? Would she have what do you think she would have chosen to do?
I mean, I think she clearly would have chosen, to sacrifice herself.
Yeah.
But I think Ellie, like Joel, is somebody who puts more value on the lives of the people they love than on themselves.
Yeah.
So I think that they are very similar in that way.
Gotcha. Yeah. I think I would tend to agree with that. All right, so that's the Last of Us season 2. A couple more things for me. I saw Bring Her Back on the same day. I saw Phoenician Scheme and Ballerina. This is my second favorite movie I saw that day. This comes to us from the Philippou brothers, directors of the Talk to Me film. This is a movie about a brother and his blind stepsister, Piper, Andy and Piper. Andy and Piper's father dies at the beginning. Not really a spoiler because it's the premise of the movie. Their father dies and they're taken into foster care by a woman played by Sally Hawkins, which is strange because I was just watching a movie where she voices a character in a movie called Kensuke's Kingdom. So it's very strange to see her in that thing. But yeah, this is very different than Talk to Me in a lot of different ways. Talk to Me was like about a bunch of, 15, 16-year-olds doing a sort of a challenge. It's not really an online challenge because it's sort of they have this hand and they, pass it around and they say, just grab this hand and say, talk to me. And then
grab the spooky hand.
Grab the spooky hand. Nothing bad will happen. And some random spirit, I think, possesses the person's body that's holding it. And it's like, oh my God, you have to get away. You have to get out of it in 30 seconds or less, or the thing will permanently be inside of you. And so everything goes sideways that way. And so this movie is very different in that they don't spell anything out for you. They don't tell you the rules of the world. They don't tell you why Sally Hawkins is doing the things she's doing. They don't tell you how it works or whatever, or really any sort of, you're left to sort of guess and to intimate from what's going on, what happened before the movie started. So very, very different from the first one in that way. But yeah, I liked it a lot. It's got some of the most nasty, dingy, gross out horror effects I've seen this year. I won't say what it is just because it's I want people to discover it for themselves, and also it actually is some pretty gnarly shit. But yeah, really, really enjoyed it. Philippou brothers are definitely one of the up and coming A24 guys. They are some of the they're not overtaking a mantle, but they're filling a spot that I actually don't know if there's anybody. You can't really say they're the parallels with Ari Aster or the other guy. Forgot the other guy's name, but I think they're working in very different fields. Even though it's horror, it's body horror stuff. It's gross out horror.
Robert Eggers, is that who?
Robert Eggers, yeah, Robert Eggers and Ari Aster, the sort of late 2010s guys from A24. These are the younger version of that, but doing horror in a very different way. Ari Aster and Robert Eggers were much more psychological, much more about the world and the upsetting feelings and tones and stuff like that. This is much more just like gross blood and possession and eye trauma. And I won't say what kind of trauma is in this movie, but it's also there's to me there's three major body traumas that are really get to me. One is eye stuff, one is fingernail stuff, and one is mouth and or tooth trauma. That's those are like that's the trifecta for me. If you put any of those in your movie, even I, Damian, the body horror guy, I get a little cringy when that stuff pops on the screen. So yeah, recommend this for people that quote unquote enjoy that stuff.
Yeah, I recommend this movie for big old sickos.
Big old
because
sickos.
that's I think who's the only like I talked about it briefly last week when we were kind of speeding through that because we had two other huge things that we were talking about on that episode.
Yeah.
And I you like this a lot more than I did. I didn't dislike it. I thought it was very well made. If you like just really gnarly feel bad horror, like this is the ultimate feel bad movie.
Yeah.
I think. In just really every sense of the word, like this is a tough watch. But like I feel like sometimes with a tough watch, like I don't know, The Exorcist or something, you come out of it at the end and be like, oh, okay, well, that was tough, but I get it at the end. At the end of this one, I'm just like, oh, well, fucking okay, that just is a bummer, man. Like I don't know that like it didn't really. The more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of like it hasn't sat well with me.
Yeah.
I especially don't like Sally Hawkins' arc. I think that the last shot in the movie is pretty gross. I really disliked that. Just feel bad for everybody. It's just like such a bummer and without enough of a like reason for it being, but it's just like this just sucks. But the world building is incredible. Effects are great. The acting is great. Just really bummer vibes. So yeah. And I think one thing too is like Sally Hawkins is supposed to be this character who's like, oh yeah, she's like a loving mother who, is going through this grief, so it's driving her to do all these horrible things, but you can still see that she, like is a caring person because of the way she treats Piper. But then she's so casually cruel to Piper's brother. I'm like, no one who was ever nice would like I get that she's like grieving and stuff like that, but like I was like, there was no way a person who cared about kids would ever treat that guy that way, because it's just so like on one level just like cruel, but on the other level just so dismissive and not caring. Whereas like with Piper, she feels like, and even Oliver to an extent, she's like, yeah, like I'm doing these horrible things, but I don't really want to, but it's what I have to do. Where it's like she's almost like getting a sick enjoyment out of like not caring about this other kid. But that being said, still really well made, very spooky movie.
Yeah. She's a sociopath, so it's like, of course, there's no really. I think sociopaths have no consistency in their way they treat people or the way they act. So it's sort of realistic in that way.
So, like, I didn't get the vibes though that she was like a sociopath. I got I thought because what I thought they were saying was like she's this grieving person, not like she was always a sociopath. It's just like, oh, she just is this way because of what happened to her daughter, and everybody used to love her and stuff like that. So, because she really only treats this one person this way. So, if the movie was trying to tell me that it was a sociopath, that's something that I did not think was made clear.
Sure. Yeah, that's fair. Speaking of the opposite, a feel-good movie. Checked out the Ballad of Wallis Island. I have on here that I listened to an interview Carey Mulligan gave on a podcast called the Off Menu Podcast, which I always stumble upon these random podcasts that have been out for like 6 years by comedians I very much enjoy. This one hosted by James Acaster and Ed Gamble. I'm not familiar with Ed Gamble, but James Acaster is one of my favorite comedians of like the last decade. He's very funny and like all his very inventive stand-up. So he's a very funny dude, and he's very much like me. I can imagine me being like him when he was interviewing her, and Acaster, his co-host Ed Gamble was saying to Jesus, can't think of anybody's name. Carey Mulligan. She was saying to Carey Mulligan about James Acaster while he's there. He's like, yeah, James is very impressed by good acting. I felt like, yeah, what's wrong with that? And so, Acaster was like, a lot of actors, they're very bad at just appearing into the character. People are some very bad at that, and I think Carey, you're very good at it. And she's like, oh, thanks, that's very nice. But yeah, they were asking her about this movie, and she's like, yeah, it's not really a stretch. It's kind of me. They were talking about how she's done the folksy thing before with Inside Llewyn Davis, almost was that that was a decade ago, if not more at this point, I think.
Yeah, it was like 2010, I want to say, Inside Llewyn Davis.
Yeah, so quite a while ago. I love this movie. This guy.
2013.
Yeah, thank you.
More than a decade.
Tom Basden. I'm not really familiar with his thing, but he has a personality sort of like mine, just like making jokes about making weird references and making weird puns, and just I love their dynamic between him and Tim Key, who plays Carey Mulligan's former folk duo partner. And so he comes to the island first, and of course the first thing he does is fall out of the boat, and he's all wet, and he's like, "Oh no, you're okay, mate. Oh, okay, let's go inside." It's just he's like, "Can I get some rice?" And he's like, "What for?" And he's like, "For my phone." Phone? What's rice? Phone? I don't what? Then he's like, "Can you leave so I can you shut the door?" And the guy walks over, shuts the door, but doesn't leave. "No, can you oh yeah, May, sorry, yeah. Very, that sort of funny, aw shucks, cringe humor is always, it just always works for me, just a great, 90-minute feel good sort of romp. I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah. I like I mentioned, it was I saw it when it came out in theaters in a very limited release. It was one of my honorable mentions for my favorite of the year. This is just a charming musical film. Not a musical, but film with a lot of music in it.
Film with music in it, exactly. So, that's what we have been watching. Let's go now to our Letterboxd assignments. I did watch my assignment 2 weeks in a row, or two podcasts in a row.
Yeah. I will say I had one more that you skipped over, but but I just wanted to touch on it briefly.
Oh yes, you can. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but because I did see, because it was Friday, June 13th last week.
Yeah.
And so I originally was going to see The Materialist, but I decided to go see the re-release of the original Friday the 13th, because June 13th is in fact Jason's birthday. So that only comes around very rarely, where it is his birthday on Friday. So I went to go see this. It was a lot of fun going to see this in the theater. The sound was really weirdly bad in the screening that I went to. But other than that, it was really a blast to go see this kind of classic in my favorite slasher series.
No, this is your favorite slasher series. Interesting.
Oh, yeah.
How does this? Is this as far and away your favorite, or is it close to other ones? Or
my favorite movie in the series, or do you mean my favorite slasher series?
Favorite slasher series.
Yeah, I'd say I'm not a big slasher fan in general.
Yeah.
But I love Jason. And even when the Jason movies are bad, I still kind of have fun with them. Like when he's like on a boat going to Manhattan, I'm like, this is a terrible movie, but just fun to see Jason killing a bunch of horny teenagers.
Yeah, exactly. I've mentioned this many times in the podcast, but I very much grew up with these movies. I know I've seen all of them at least 2 or 3 times. Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday was one of the first times I remember, the crossover universe building of when when Jason dies, there's a mask on the ground, and he's dragged to hell by Freddy, and the claw comes up. Yeah. So that would tease Jason versus Freddy, 10 years later, almost exactly 10 years later, in 2003.
Took them a while to get that movie made.
It did. It really did. They haven't really had a new slasher character in a very long time. I think we have the I Know What You Did Last Summer remake, or not remake, but Legacy sequel coming out this summer. That was one of the newish ones. I know there's one called Hatchet or something. Hatchet, I think, is a relatively new character on the scene. What else is there? I know there's probably some guys I'm forgetting, but those are the OGs of the character-based slasher guys. Yep. So there's that.
The classics.
The classics, yes. All right, so with that, let's get to what we've been watching again. Saw my pick again just recently, and one of my favorite picks I've had in a long time. I really, really enjoyed I Like Movies. It is a comedy drama set in the early 2000s in Canada. So it has a little Scott Pilgrim vibes, with a main character who's just referencing pop culture all over the place. This stars Isaiah Leaton as the main character, and his friend is played by Percy Hines White. If that name sounds familiar, he was in last year's My Old Ass. He played the love interest in that movie. I was like, as soon as he came out, I was like, wait, I've seen that guy before, and he was in that movie. Again, this character, the main character played by Isaiah Lawrence, is similar in some ways to me, I will say, go figure, but also has qualities of the last guy I talked about in the in Ballad of Wallis Island. Very manic. Very manic, very jokey, 1,000 jokes a minute, doesn't take anything really seriously, and also, is very mean to his mom. I stopped being mean to my mom a long time ago, but I was very much that kid at 17. Just wanted to be alone in my room, watch my stuff. I'm like, Mom, just shut up, go away, you're lame. So he's very much that kid. Very much related to him in that way, and also related to him that he had a crush on his older boss. I was working at McDonald's when I was a kid, and I had a quote unquote older boss. She was probably 22 or 23.
Ronald McDonald, right?
Ronald McDonald, my boss. Yeah. No, I had a shift manager, probably 22 or 23, that I had a crush on. So very much related to him in that way. This is just a movie about a kid who's obsessed with movies, gets a job working at a movie store, trying to save money to go to college, and it's really not much more than that. It has some really well written scenes, some tugs on the heartstring scenes near the end, and it's got a little bit. I've got my notes here somewhere. It's got a quote here, which is like, "This is me. This is my whole personality." It says, the quote is, "A movie's my entire life. I need to watch a movie like I need to breathe air. If I don't watch a movie every single day, I feel like that's a part of me that's like dying." I was like, "Yep, that's me." That's pretty much me in there. The tone of it reminded me. Yeah. The tone of it was reminding me of, like I mentioned before, of the aw shucks indie twee of the late 2000s, early 2010s with Zach Braff and his, Garden State stuff, early 2010 stuff of like perks of being a wallflower, that kind of thing. And also the stuff that Connor Ratcliffe has been doing recently with Shithouse and Cha-Cha Real Smooth, as sort of that main character, aw shucks, I'm a nice guy, give me a chance sort of thing. So yeah, it's got those DNA of it, but I still really enjoyed it based on its, based on its what do you call that? The type of thing it's talking about. What is the name of that word? Is escaping my brain, but the topic of the movie. I was trying to say the topic of the movie. The thing that the character
message.
Is, the message, the thing the character is motivated to do, very much related to that way. So yeah, I like movies. Check it out. I think it's not sure where it is streaming right now. I think it's probably one of those weird Hulu things, maybe. Let's find out. Oh yeah, it's on Amazon Prime Video. So if you have that, you can check it out there. Yeah. So yeah, one of my favorites I've seen in a while. Yeah. So your assignment, last time was The Right Stuff. It was almost 3 hours. So you had
No, it was over. It's 3 hours and 15 minutes.
Jesus. Yeah. All right.
It is a lot.
What'd you think of it?
I kind of watched it in two chunks. This movie I thought was a good movie. Like it's like very much like The Godfather.
Yeah.
Where it's like it's one of these movies that gets held up as like these great movies, these masterpieces, and you watch it, you're like, okay, yeah, like this is pretty good. Yeah. It's a lot of just like, and then these guys were great guys, and they went and they saved, and there's like this whole plot line with Sam Shepard where he's like one of these test pilots. A lot of these guys start as test pilots, and it focuses a lot on Sam Shepard's character, who really, after like the beginning of the movie, and his first build, he did, I think, win, or was at least nominated for Best Supporting Actor for this, because there isn't really a main character. But like his whole plot, which was not going to be in the original William Goldman draft of this, who left the movie because he disagreed with the way the director wanted to portray a lot of things. As his character, Sam Shepard's character, is Chuck Yeager, is just kind of superfluous to the plot, but is also the best thing in the movie. It's a movie that like I know a lot of people that I like and respect care about a lot. Like it's the movie I looked at Letterboxd. It has my average rating from my friends in Letterboxd is 4.8. So like most people have given this movie 5 stars. I think one person gave it 4 stars, and I'm just like, all right, like I liked it, but it's kind of I don't get the like why this is one of the great movies. It's it feels like this long important movie about how we got to space, and it's cool. Like I found it very enjoyable. I was thinking watching it, I was like, wow, this feels like if it came out today, it would have been a miniseries. And then I looked up and it's like, oh, in 2020 they made a miniseries of this movie. Okay, that checks out.
Yeah.
But yeah, good movie. Just maybe not one of the all-time greats for me.
Yeah.
Which is weird because it's like if like that's such an insanely stupid bar to put on a movie,
Right.
but like that's the whole thing that happens with like The Godfather. When you watch these movies that are so great, you come in with these expectations, and then you watch and you're like, that was pretty good. It's like almost impossible to meet these like lofty expectations. I mean, sometimes you do. Sometimes you watch a movie that's supposed to be like a masterpiece, and you're like, wow, that was a masterpiece. Didn't hit in that way for me this time, but I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad I marked it off the list.
Yeah. I'm trying to see if it won any awards. Let's see. Got best film editing, best score, and best sound and best sound effects editing. Interesting. All right.
Okay, so it did. So I guess Shepard did not win best supporting actor then.
Did not. He was nominated, but no.
Oh, okay.
Couldn't tell you who won. Let's see. What year was this? 56th Academy Awards. Let's go to Best Actor in a Supporting Role. Sam Shepard lost to Jack Nicholson in Terms of Endearment.
Okay, well that's Jack Nicholson. That's fair.
Yeah. What else am I going to say? Yeah, this is a Wes Anderson-ass cast. This is just like a who's who of early 80s male actors. Sam Shepard, Fred Ward, Dennis Quaid, Ed Harris, Scott Glenn, Lance Hendrickson. And then you got Barbara Hershey, Veronica Cartwright. Let's see.
There's a lot of that guys in it,
There's a lot of that guys, including Jeff Goldblum, probably young Jeff Goldblum. Yeah,
Goldblum and Harry Shearer are like the guys who like show up to be like, NASA, we've got to watch out because the Soviets, they're sending things into space. Like every 30 minutes they show up to like be like, this is what the Soviets are doing, and it's just weird. But yeah, Sam Shepard is interesting because he's been in movies, like he's in like The Notebook, for example, but he's like mostly known as like one of our great American poets, and then every once in a while he's like, I'm just gonna be in a movie, and like it's like, okay, cool, dude.
Yeah, all right. So maybe I'll check that out at some point. All right, so let's go to our watch list and both get a new Letterboxd shuffle. Go to my watch list and hit shuffle, see what we get. And I got a movie that I have on 4K Blu-ray because I got it, one of the last ones I got in 4K. I've slowly been petering out my my physical collection. So it's not a Kevin
Smith film, we know that much.
Exactly, not a Kevin Smith film. It's a movie called The Heroic Trio from 1993. It's a movie directed by Johnny To. It is a early martial arts film starring Anita Mui, Yim Fong, and a very young Michelle Yao and Maggie Cheung from their days doing martial arts films with Jackie Chan and all them. So this is a all-female, rough and tumble, female kick-ass movie. That's looks like I'm looking at the Letterboxd reviews, and it's just like 5 stars across the board. But usually, that's for people that seek out this stuff. So of course, probably going to get 5 stars from people like that. David Ehrlich gave it only 3 stars.
Maybe why is the right stuff was that for me?
True, yeah, it's one of the space sickos.
Yeah, which I am one. I am one actually. So
Yeah, have you mentioned you've watched the what's that Apple TV show about the space race or the From Earth, not From Earth, it's the one where it's like the alternate reality where the Soviets landed first. For All Mankind. For All Mankind, yes.
Good show. Good fucking show. That's interesting because it starts as kind of like this traditional space nut like NASA movie, and it's been slowly creeping into more sci-fi as the seasons go on.
Yeah. All right, so go to your watch list and let me know what you get.
Yes, I will hit shuffle here, and I've got the 2016 Odyssey, but it's not the Odyssey. What is this? Why did I add this? All right, apparently it's very good. Oh, this is a Florence and the Machine 50-minute long, how they'll take a bunch of music videos and make it into a short, not a short film, but a shorter movie, like 'cause
Right.
it's 48 minutes long, and I'm like, what? And I see first cast list Florence Welch. I'm like, okay, so I guess that's what I'm watching. Florence and the Machine in her movie The Odyssey.
The Odyssey. Okay. All right. So it's like a short film, musical short film thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's like longer than a short film, but like not as long as an actual film, because it's about 50 minutes. So
Yes. I don't know. Odyssey.
Right.
There we go. All right. So that's your assignment for next time. And for next time, 28 years later, the thing I remember hearing early on in the production of this was like one of the best scripts. Whoever had read it in a long time. So, starring Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Ralph Fiennes, and many other people. I'm assuming there's probably going to be some cameos in this from the previous films. Whoever survived those films that I've seen definitely within the past 10 years. Should be. It's one of the most anticipated films this year. I don't know if I had it on my list, but definitely is for me. I don't know if it is for you as well.
I mean, it not really. Like I'm excited to see it, but I wouldn't say most. And I like the first one a lot.
Yeah.
I never saw the second one. A big part of the reason was because neither Danny Boyle nor Alex Garland came back. They are both coming back for this one.
Yeah.
I think that Danny Boyle is always at his best when he's working with Alex Garland, and Alex Garland is really good as a director, but he's much better as a writer. And so I'm curious to see them teaming up again. So yeah.
Yeah, very cool. So next we have Elio, this year's Pixar's original, a Pixar original. Yeah. So it's starring Jonas Kebribeb as Elio.
You got it.
Yeah, I got it. 11-year-old boy who is mistakenly identified by the aliens as Earth's ambassador. Also stars Zoe Saldana, Brad Garrett, and some other people. That I've never heard of before in my life.
Probably John Ratzenberger, I'm guessing, is going to be in it.
Maybe it's possible.
I mean, he's in literally every single Pixar movie, so
didn't he pass away recently?
John Ratzenberger?
Yeah,
I think you're thinking of Norm. This is
I did.
Cliff.
Oh, my mistake. I'm sorry, Norm. Rip to Norm. And we also have Ironheart. This is one of those long gestated Marvel projects, sort of like Blade, which I'm assuming went back and forth between being a TV show and a movie. I'm assuming, and this is a miniseries, so this is probably going to come out and people are like, yeah, should have been a movie. I don't think
it was ever supposed to be a movie, but it's something where they like clearly were setting this up in Black Panther 2, and then because of the strikes and everything else that happened, it just kept getting delayed, and now it's finally coming out.
Yeah. It sees MIT student Riri Williams return home to Chicago following the events of Black Panther Wakanda Forever, where she discovers secrets that pit technology against the magic. So that should be interesting. Starring Dominique Thorne, Anthony Ramos, and Alden Ehrenreich. Where you been, Alden Ehrenreich? One of my favorite moments in any Coen Brothers movie was his scene in Hail Caesar when he's talking to Ralph Fiennes, and Ralph Fiennes is trying to teach his character, who is like, the Southern guy with a thick Southern accent, and he goes, what did it word so simple? And Eric goes, what did it word so simple? No, what did it word so simple? What did it word?
All right, let's try this. Your line, just say it as I say it. Say your line exactly as I'm about to. Just as I'm about to do.
Sure, okay.
Would that it were so simple.
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 My dear boy, why do you say that? Why do you say twere?
Well, you should say it like I said it.
Yes, but...
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple. Would that it were so simple.
Watch my mouth. Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Keep your head still. Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
I'm trying to say that, Mr. Lawrence.
Lawrence,
I thought a minute ago it was Lawrence.
No, we can use Christian names, my good dear boy. Lawrence is fine, just as I called you Hobie.
Okay.
So, would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple. Trippingly.
Would that it were so simple. Trippingly.
No, don't say trippingly. Say the line trippingly.
Would that it were... Would that it...
Would that
Would that it were so
Would that
simple.
it were so simple.
Would that it were so
Would that it were
simple.
so
Would that it were so
simple.
simple. Would that it
Would that
were.
it were so simple.
Would that it were so simple.
Rueful.
Would that it were so
Would that it were
simple.
so simple. Rueful, simple.
Would that it were.
Soulful, simple.
Would that it were
Or
so
soulful.
simple.
You could say soulful, rueful, soulful. Would that it were so simple.
Would that it. Would that it were so simple.
Why are you doing this?
Would that it were so simple. Would that it.
Just keep still.
Why you say what did we're? Because that's what you said.
That is a really great underrated movie. I'm gonna have to cover it at some point.
Yeah. The following week, June 27th, we have F1. Joseph Kaczynski's F1.
It's now F1 the movie.
F1 the
If
movie.
you haven't seen it, it's called. That's the official name of it now. Is F1 the movie.
Okay. They did an interesting thing. Well, interesting to me anyway. Back in the day, before YouTube really blew up, one of the main places you would go to get movie trailers was appletrailers.com or apple.trailers.
Yeah.
And so they released this
Those were the
trailer.
days.
Those were the days, the heady days, halcyonic days. They released this on their website, and if you have a Apple iPhone above like a 14, I want to say, you watch this trailer on your phone, it would like vibrate along with the scenes of the movie, which I thought was pretty cool.
Rumble technology like the N64.
Like the N64,
Got the Rumble
exactly. Got the Rumble pack.
You can tell when there's a golden skull nearby because it'll rumble.
Yeah, I remember that shit. I remember playing WCW versus Nitro, or WCW versus NWO World Tour, putting the Rumble pack in there. Yeah, good times.
Oh, yeah.
And we have Mithrigan 2.0. I saw the trailer for this. This looks fucking ridiculous. Just like, what's the sequel going to be? I don't know. Mithrigan versus a more advanced Mithrigan. Uh-oh. Wow.
Right.
Versus a Meforgan. I don't know. Allison Williams is back as the classic character Gemma. Violet
Yes,
McGraw.
the
Yep.
huge moron.
All right, so I'll be trucking out to the theater to see this at my Regal. I would not pay the $18 or what it is to see it regularly, but I have the.
You should just sneak into this shit. Honestly,
I really
Don't
should.
Use money.
I really should. All right, so that's
Buy like a ticket for something else, and then just go see Meforgan.
Meforgan.
Mithrigan 2, whatever the fuck it is.
All right, let's do a little plug-in. Why did I want to mention Screen Draft? Because they do that in the Screen Draft. Let's do a little plug-in. Oh, they had what was the movie we talked about back here? They were doing a Screen Draft this week. What was their topic this week, Derek?
The time loop movies.
Time loop movies. They had another one as well on their Patreon feed. Let's see.
I'm not a patron, so I don't know.
They did the Two Corys with Kate Walsh and Billy Ray Bruton. He's always a great guy to have on there. They did the Mission Impossible
Yep,
Super
he's
Draft.
been on Underrated too. Shout out to Billy Ray.
Oh, nice. That's pretty cool. Let me see. Yeah, I'm not sure what was on there. But anyways, let's see. We're going to say, all the stuff. Go to Substack. Go to my Medium blog, damian.sherman.medium.com. Go to my Letterboxd, Midnight Film Pod on there. 43 away from 2,200 followers. I changed the goal to 2,200. So let's get me to there. Go film essayist on YouTube, Spotify for Podcasters. Got all my interviews, Anthony Legos, Connor Kilpatrick, Josh Flanagan. I went on theirs around the same time they came on my show. So go to the iPhone Boy podcast, look up, I think it was like the early, like deep pandemic times, like late 2020, early 2021. I talked about one of my favorite graphic novels, Day Tripper, there. So go to their podcast to check me out on there. And then go to Discord. I'm active on the iFanboy movie and TV channels on there, Ringer Discord, Letterboxd Discord, Blank Check Discord, and the Hey Riddle Discords. I'm super active on there, so if you want to check me out, my Discord name is still, let me pull up my stuff here. What am I on here? Oh, Alien Ramusi, yes. Still that.
Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks.
You need to change
Classy.
that,
Class E, yeah. All right, Derek, what you got to plug?
Yes, I'm plugging, of course, the Underrated Movie Podcast, which releases every other Monday. I talk about films that are underrated, underappreciated, and ones that have gone under the radar and passed most people by. This last week, I talked with Mikey Newman of Film Joy about one of his favorite movies, Whale Rider. Next week, I'm talking to John Champion of Roddenberry Entertainment about Flash Gordon. Both really great episodes. I would recommend you guys go check them out. Just look up Underrated Movie Podcast. However you're listening to this, to get those as well. And then if you're going to Comic-Con, stay tuned because I can't say any details yet, but I will be doing another panel there. So would hope to see you guys at Comic-Con. Hopefully you can come out and check me out.
Very freaking cool. All right. So Midnight Film Society, I'm Damian.
I've been Derick.
And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.